What is up guys, it's your boy Gunsoww and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be showing you guys the basics of Phonk beats using Ableton. These go for all DAWs, you don't really have to worry about not using Ableton, but I will go in depth when it comes to some specific things such as how to make things, be on beat, aka the warp function in Ableton. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. First of all, you'll need to know the basic structure of a Phonk beat. It mainly consists of a jazzy melody, the Memphis vocals, and some hard-hitting trap drums. Now, when it comes to the melody, you can either sample it or make it yourself. This is really up to you. But if you don't feel like sampling and if you feel like making the melody yourself, but you're still not comfortable enough, when it comes to coming up with melodies and you don't really know too much music theory, no problem, because this video is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with more than 25,000 classes in design, music production, business, you name it. And the premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can join the classes in the communities that are just right for you. And whether you want to fuel your creativity, your curiosity, or even career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving in 2019. I'm currently watching Mixing in Ableton Live, a creative approach by Soda, and I can already feel the difference compared to when I wasn't using Skillshare. And this is probably just a tiny fraction compared to how many music production classes there are in total. You really have a wide variety of things to choose from learning music theory, to mixing, to producing specific genres. Skillshare really is the place for you to learn. And not only that it's the best place to learn, it's also super affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. And talking about subscriptions, the first 500 people to click the link in the description are gonna get a 2-month free trial, so you can see how good it is for yourself. And now let's make a Phonk beat. So I actually made a video before on how to find samples in case you actually don't want to make a melody or you feel like sampling might be the best in this case. Although I do recommend you try to make a melody, maybe you're gonna get even better results, this is really up to you. But basically, when it comes to finding samples, people tend to make it as, it being something really complicated when all you gotta do is just go on YouTube, type in jazz samples, and you're gonna get so many playlists and all you gotta do is just listen to them and see what you're feeling. So I already picked a sample, now it's time to get the Memphis vocals. Now the easiest way of getting them is by using the Crip kits, which I highly recommend if you wanna produce Phonk because they have so many vocal chops, it's incredible. But in case you don't want to spend more money on drum kits, you can do the same thing like the samples. Just go on YouTube and look for Memphis rap and you're gonna find a ton of playlists. All you gotta do is just listen to them, see what fits with the main melody, and then just use them. For the sake of saving time, I'm gonna load up a project and then I'm gonna break it down and show you guys what I mean by the structure and then the drums and so on. So this is how the project looks like. It doesn't look too complicated because in reality it's really not. And for the structure, you'd normally have, let's say, the first 4 bars or 8 bars depending on the sample, you're gonna have the intro. Then the next 4 bars, or once again the 8 bars, you would have a pre-drop. Usually you're gonna have the sample both in the intro and the pre-drop and the verses and so on because it's the main melody, but at the pre-drop you could insert the Memphis sample. Together they should sound something like this. So it's really simple. Now all you gotta do is just complement them with drums. But before getting into the drums, let's continue with the structure. So as you can see, I have the sample, I have the vocals continue for an extra 8 bars just because I felt like it. Depending on how long the verses are, if you want to have 8-bar verses or 16 bars depending on what type of beat you want to have, you could keep it simple. And as you can see, the volume is ducking because it's sidechained to the kicks. Sidechaining is basically creating more room for a specific sound. In this case, the kick is sidechained to the melody. So whenever the kick hits, the volume of the melody and the vocals duck. Then we have our verse, which no longer contains the Memphis vocal, and then the bridge, which again does consist of the vocals. You can remove them, you can add extra things. It's really not mandatory to add them, but it's an important thing when it comes to Phonk beats. And then the simple verse without any vocals, and then the outro. You can do whatever you want with the outro. You can eventually add a halftime plugin and then automate it so you can spice it up. But this is the basic structure when it comes to the vocals and the melody. the sample normally isn't on beat. This is mostly for the Ableton users. You know, you can enable the warping, set it to complex, because I feel like it's the best option when it comes to doing this. And you can compare the synchronized version to the unsynchronized version. As you can see, it just goes off beat. So basically what you do is just, you can see these markers right here, double click them and then drag them to be on beat. And then you can listen to them and see if they actually match the beat. Now, this is really gonna be different from sample to sample because, you know, if you have drums, they're either programmed or they're actually real drums. And, you know, as humans, you can't really quantize yourself while playing live, so a lot of them just tend to get desynchronized pretty quickly. So it might depend on how much it's gonna take to actually synchronize a sample, depending on the sample basically. But that's about it. When it comes to the mixing, I didn't really do too much. I actually just applied, you know, a simple EQ, got rid of the low frequencies, and then I basically applied kind of the same thing on the vocals as well. The sidechain, I actually did it using the compressor. It's really easy. This is how the basic compressor is gonna look like. You just press on the arrow thingy, click on the sidechain, and then change audio from no input to your kick. You can rename it to kick so you know which one is which. And that's about it. I just copied it and pasted it over the vocals and so on. Now let's go over to the drums. So I started by adding a snare, so you can always have snares in the pre-drop. It's really up to you, but this is how they sound like together with the snare. It's really simple. It's a really simple snare pattern by itself. It's the basic trap snare pattern. And then I went over and I added some hi-hats, and I actually used the drum rack just because I can use my MIDI keyboard. And basically what I did, I loaded up the first 4 pads with the same hi-hat. I went over to the MIDI effects and I added an arpeggiator, so that way it would save my time by not having to manually do the hi-hat rolls basically. So if I enable the MIDI for it, you're gonna be able to hear. This is the normal 2-step pattern, and then we have a triplet, and then we have a somewhat faster 2-step, which is basically 1 step, and then even faster. So you can do hi-hat rolls more efficiently. So this is how they sound together. And you can really play with it. You can do a lot of variation, even if you only use 4 types of the hi-hat, basically 4 types of rolls. Really simple in essence, and you can have fun with it. Then I added an open hat, once again something really simple, and it sounds like this. I turned it down a bit, and if I'm not mistaken, I did turn it down 1 step, just so it's slightly lower, because the original one, I felt like it was too high-pitched, so that 1 step does actually make a difference. And then I added a crash, really simple. All I did was put it 4 times, and then I actually automated the volume, so it's gonna sound something like this. Really simple once again. And for the effects, which you can always, you know, freestyle, I added the classic neck still chirp, or like the phone ring, depending on how you want to call it. So it's gonna sound like this. I basically created the delay effect myself without having to use the actual delay effect, and I did the same thing. I automated the volume, and then I copied and pasted it, and I just crammed the notes, so the second time is gonna be faster. So it really depends on how you want to do it. You can add extra sound effects, you can add the silenced USB, or anything honestly, and you're gonna decide if it does fit in the beat. Now that we're done with the pre-drop, let's go over to the actual drop. I actually used an extra vocal sample besides the main one, which sounds like this. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. And I just turned it down a bit. I would probably add a actual delay effect, just so it goes on for longer instead of actually stretching it out. So it's really simple. So we have a normal kick. Once again, this is not fully mixed, it's just like a rough idea, and the kicks sound like this. I chose a more active pattern, and for the kick itself, I decided to pick something that still has somewhat of a low frequency going on, so it can still be punchy, and also some high frequency so you can still hear it and not only feel it, because in some cases maybe your headphones or your speakers don't really output too much bass, but you can still hear the kick and you don't really have to distort it. And for the 808, I actually tried to make it, you know, follow the melody for a little bit. It might be slightly off because I tried to tune it somewhat. I didn't really spend too much time on it, but it sounds like this. It kind of sounds off by itself, but it doesn't really matter as long as it sounds good with the melody. And the 808 itself, I chose one to be more subby. You can always just, you know, get rid of some of those frequencies. I initially cut it at around 60 Hz, but I feel like it was too weak, so I instead let it at 46. The kicks and the 808s are gonna sound like this. I basically copied the notes from the kick and then I pasted them on the 808, and all I did was just press legato and then, you know, make a melody out of them. Now, technically your beat is gonna sound something like this. Here comes the actual verse. So you can rap over this part, you can do whatever, you can just have it clean, I guess. Pretty simple. So as I said, it's really simple to do. It's nothing too crazy. It's gonna sound better if you make the melodies yourself, and this is why Skillshare is right for you. But that's gonna be it with this video. I hope you guys managed to learn something, and if you want to continue on learning, I highly suggest you guys click the link in the description and sign up for that free trial of 2 months of unlimited access on Skillshare. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was your boy Gunsoww, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. Thank you.